The rusted Ferris wheel loomed against the twilight sky, a skeletal silhouette against the dying orange hues. We, a motley crew of high school seniors from Harmony Falls, Ohio, stood at the entrance of Joyland, an abandoned amusement park nestled deep in the forgotten corners of the state. Rumors swirled around Joyland like dust devils in a deserted town, stories of sudden closures, disgruntled employees, and even a tragic accident involving a runaway roller coaster. But for us, on this sweltering July evening, it was just another weekend adventure, a chance to explore the forbidden and capture some creepy content for our social media channels. As we pushed open the creaking iron gates, an unnatural silence engulfed us. The usual symphony of screams and laughter that would characterize an amusement park was absent, replaced by an eerie stillness that pressed down on us like a heavy blanket. We walked past the faded facades of carnival booths, their chipped paint and peeling posters testaments to a forgotten past. The once vibrant colors had been bleached by the relentless sun, leaving a macabre palette of peeling red and sun-bleached blue. Then we saw a vast field stretching before us, littered with a sea of broken toys. Dolls with vacant eyes stare up from the dusty ground, their porcelain faces cracked and chipped. Teddy bears, their once soft fur now matted and dusty, lay sprawled like deflated balloons. Rusted wind-up cars, their paint flaking, seemed frozen mid-motion, twisted in eternal silence. An unsettling feeling crept into my stomach. These weren't just discarded toys, they were like discarded memories, remnants of a past filled with joy and laughter, now twisted into something grotesque. The toys seemed to watch us with a malevolent glint, as if accusing us of intruding on their desolate graveyard. "This is messed up," whispered Sarah, her voice barely a squeak. We all felt it, a prickling sensation on our skin, an unspoken agreement that we shouldn't be here. But the thrill of the forbidden, the need to capture this eerie scene for our online validation, pushed us forward. We ventured deeper into the field, the crunching of broken plastic under our feet the only sound. The silence was broken then by a faint rustling, a whisper-like sound that seemed to come from all around us. It sent shivers down my spine, a sound so unnatural it defied definition. Then we heard it, faint cries, like the whimpers of children lost and scared. The cries seemed to emanate from the broken toys themselves, a collective sigh of despair that echoed through the desolate landscape. Panic clawed at my throat. This wasn't a haunting or a ghost story, it was something far worse, the remnants of a place where happiness had died. We were exploring more than just an abandoned park, we were trespassing on a graveyard of forgotten memories, a field where the remnants of children's laughter lingered like phantoms. The whispers grew louder, forming words in a language we couldn't understand, but that resonated with a deep sense of despair. Suddenly, Sarah grabbed my arm, her eyes wide with terror. "Did you see that?" she hissed. I followed her gaze to a lone doll, its porcelain face cracked down the center, its vacant eyes glimmering with what looked like a single tear. The tear, glistening in the fading light, seemed grotesquely real, a single drop of sorrow in this desolate toy graveyard. We couldn't take it anymore. The unsettling whispers, the oppressive silence, the feeling of being watched by 1,000 broken eyes, it was too much. Turning on our heels, we ran back towards the rusted gates, not daring to look back. We didn't need pictures or videos to remember this place. It was burned into our memories, a chilling reminder of the dark side of forgotten happiness. As we reached the gates, we slammed them shut with a resounding clang, the sound echoing through the silent park. We didn't speak until we were safely back in the car, the engine roaring to life as if echoing our need to get away. We didn't discuss the whispers or the tearful doll, but a silent understanding hung in the air. This wasn't just an abandoned amusement park, it was a place where joy had gone to die, leaving behind a desolate graveyard of broken memories, forever haunted by the echoes of laughter that once filled the air. Let's hop onto story number 2, but before I begin reading, make sure that you have subscribed to Mr. Scare for regular horror podcasts. The last rays of the Nevada sun dipped below the horizon, painting the vast expanse of desert sky in fiery orange hues. I, John, a freelance photographer on a cross-country road trip, cursed under my breath. My trusty Ford F-150, Bessie, sputtered one last time and died on the desolate stretch of Highway 50, the loneliest road in America, living up to its name in a cruel twist of fate. Panic gnawed at me for a moment. My phone, a useless brick with no signal, mocked me from the dashboard. I checked the battery, dead. Great, stranded in the middle of nowhere with a dying camera and no way to call for help. The silence was deafening, broken only by the rasping wind whipping through the dry desert brush. The temperature was already dropping, a stark reminder of the harsh reality of a desert night. Desperate for some human connection, I flipped on the radio. Static bombarded me first, a harsh white noise that filled the car. Then, a voice crackled through, faint and distorted. "This is Sheriff Miller from Elko County. Attention all travelers on Highway 50, if you can hear this, please stay in your vehicles. Do not attempt to leave the highway. Repeat, do not attempt to leave the highway." The message ended abruptly, leaving me more confused than before. What was going on? The static returned, but now it was accompanied by snippets of conversations, garbled and overlapping. Strange lights, power outages, disappearances. My blood ran cold. Disappearances? What kind of disappearances? A haunting melody caught through the static, a mournful tune played on an out-of-tune piano. It sent shivers down my spine, a feeling of dread settling deep in my gut. The melody was followed by another voice, this one filled with a frantic urgency. "Stay indoors. Don't look at the lights. There. The voice was cut off by a blood-curdling scream. The static returned, now louder, more intense, as if 1,000 voices were trying to break through at once. Fear, cold and clammy, gripped me. I glanced at the rearview mirror. The last sliver of twilight had faded, leaving the desert bathed in an inky blackness. A flicker of movement caught my eye out the side window. I squinted, straining to see through the darkness. There, on the edge of my headlight's reach, stood a figure. Tall and gaunt, it seemed to blend into the night, its features obscured. But I saw it, a pair of eyes, glowing a sickly yellow, like predator eyes staring back at me. My heart hammered against my ribs. I slammed my foot on the gas, but Bessie remained silent, a mocking reminder of my predicament. The figure started to move, taking slow, deliberate steps towards my car. Adrenaline surged through my veins, and I fumbled for the flashlight I kept in the glove compartment. As I flicked it on, the figure stumbled back, shielding its eyes with its arm. For a moment, I saw it clearly, a human figure, its clothes ragged and dusty, its face haggard with fear. It looked like it hadn't seen a decent meal or a good night's sleep in weeks. "Help me," it rasped, its voice hoarse. "They're coming, the darkness." Before I could formulate a response, the static on the radio escalated to a fever pitch, a cacophony of screams and pleas for help drowning out everything else. The figure outside stumbled further back, clutching its head as if in pain. Then, as abruptly as it began, the static died down. Silence descended once more, heavier and more oppressive than before. The figure was gone. Taking a deep breath, I focused on the man I'd just seen. Lost, delusional, sure, but his fear seemed genuine. But what was the darkness he was talking about? Was it something real, or just the ravings of a man pushed to his limits by the harsh desert environment? A million questions swirled in my head, unanswered. The night stretched long and cold. I huddled inside my car, rationing the meager supplies I had, the haunting melody from the radio echoing in my mind. Every flicker of movement outside sent a jolt of fear through me. Finally, as the first rays of dawn painted the sky, a distant rumble broke the silence. A beat-up pickup truck, its headlights cutting through the pre-dawn gloom, approached. Relief washed over me like a tidal wave. The driver, a grizzled rancher with a weathered face and a wary glint in his eyes, pulled up beside Bessie. He didn't speak at first, just eyed me up and down, his gaze lingering on the flashlight clutched in my hand. Sensing his suspicion, I explained my situation, the dead car, the radio messages, the strange figure. His face remained impassive, but a flicker of something crossed his eyes, recognition maybe, or a grim understanding. "You shouldn't have been out here after dark," he said gruffly. "Especially not near those damned radio towers." He gestured towards a cluster of towers in the distance, their skeletal frames stark against the rising sun. Intrigued, I pressed him for information. He hesitated, then spoke in a hushed tone. "There have been rumors. Lights in the sky, power outages, people going missing. They say it started after they set up those towers, messing with who knows what." His voice trailed off, a mix of fear and skepticism in his eyes. Seeing my disbelief, he added, "Look, I got supplies to deliver. You coming with me, or staying here?" The answer was a no-brainer. Hopping into his truck, I left Bessie behind, a silent promise to collect it later with a tow truck. As we drove, the rancher explained more. He believed the disappearances were linked to some government experiment gone wrong, something to do with those towers and messing with signals or frequencies. Who knew, he muttered, could be aliens, government mind control, or something even more messed up. We reached a small, dusty town nestled in a valley. The air crackled with a tension I couldn't place. People seemed edgy, avoiding eye contact, and the streets were strangely deserted. I stayed with the rancher as he delivered his supplies, the unease thickening the air. Later, over a greasy spoon breakfast at the only diner in town, I noticed a flyer stuck to the wall. It was a missing person report, the face eerily similar to the figure I saw outside my car. The rancher saw me staring at it and sighed. "John Doe," he muttered. "Another one." My mind raced. Was it all a coincidence? The disappearances, the screams on the radio, the glowing eyes in the darkness? Or was there something more sinister at play, something the government was hiding? By nightfall, I knew I couldn't stay. The tension in the town hung heavy, suffocating. The rancher offered to drive me back to Elko County in a working phone. As we drove away, I glanced back at the town, a single light flickering above the desolate buildings. Reaching Elko, I reported everything: the dead car, the radio messages, the missing man flyer, and the ominous whispers from the rancher. The sheriff, a tired-looking man with a perpetually furrowed brow, listened patiently. He thanked me for the information but gave no clear answers. There was an underlying tension in his office, a sense of something they weren't telling me. Back in civilization, surrounded by the familiar hum of city life, the experience felt like a bad dream. Yet, the haunting melody from the radio and the image of glowing eyes in the darkness lingered. I contacted a journalist friend, a conspiracy theorist with a nose for the strange. He listened intently to my story, a spark of excitement in his voice. "Sounds like you stumbled onto something big, John," he said. "Something they're trying to keep quiet. But we'll get to the bottom of this, together." Whether it was a government experiment gone wrong, a natural phenomenon, or just the town's collective paranoia, I never found out for sure. But the experience left an indelible mark on me. A reminder of the vast unknowns out there, the secrets hidden just beyond reach, and the chilling whispers that sometimes pierce the night sky. The July sun beat down mercilessly on our beat-up Ford Explorer, turning the Nevada desert into a shimmering mirage. Sweat slicked my back, and my canteen had long since gone dry. The guys, Mark, Emily, and Ben, were no better off. We'd been on this ill-advised backcountry camping trip for 2 days, lured by the promise of solitude and a chance to disconnect from the digital world. Now, disconnection felt like a distant dream, replaced by a desperate need for water. "Guys," I croaked, my voice scratchy, "we need to find water." Mark, usually the optimist, slammed the brakes, sending us flying forward. "Look," he yelled, pointing towards a weathered wooden structure in the distance. "Oh well." A collective sigh of relief escaped our lips. As we stumbled out of the car, our throats parched and raw, the well seemed like an oasis in a desert nightmare. It was ancient, its wooden frame warped by time and sun. A rusty pulley creaked ominously. Well, Emily quipped, trying to lighten the mood. We all forced a smile, the humor brittle in the oppressive heat. Mark, the ever-practical one, surveyed the well. "Looks sturdy enough. Anyone got a rope?" Ben pulled out a frayed climbing rope he always carried just in case. With trembling hands, we secured it to the bucket and lowered it down the dark shaft. The silence was deafening. The weight of the bucket seemed to hang heavy in the thick air. Just as hope began to dwindle, a splash echoed up the well, followed by a sickening creak as the rope strained. Mark started pulling, his face grim. We all crowded around the well, anticipation and thirst sharpening our senses. Finally, with a groan, the bucket emerged, filled to the brim with, not water. It was mud. Thick, black mud, flecked with something strangely reflective. Disappointment washed over us. But before we could react, a sound rose from the well. Not a splash, not a gurgle, but a whisper. A chilling whisper, like dry leaves rustling in the wind. It resonated from the depths, filled with a despair so deep it sent shivers down my spine. Thirsty, so thirsty. The whisper grew louder, a chorus of voices rising from the darkness, their words slurred and twisted. Why have you come, to torment us? The voices were tinged with a raw malice, an accusation that chilled me to the bone. My gaze darted around, searching for the source of the whispers, but the well remained a dark, silent eye staring back. Panic clawed at my throat. This wasn't a regular well. These were not ghosts, but something far more unsettling. The weight of unseen eyes filled the air, a pressure pushing down on us. One by one, my friends began to inch towards the well. Mark, usually stoic, had a glazed look in his eyes. Emily, her face pale, seemed drawn in by an invisible force. Guys! No! I screamed, grabbing Mark's arm. He flinched, his eyes momentarily clear. Then, a low growl escaped the well, sending a jolt of fear through him. He ripped his arm free and took a step towards the well. Suddenly, Ben, usually the quiet one, snapped. He grabbed a large rock and threw it with all his might. The rock struck the wooden frame of the well with a loud crack, shattering the oppressive silence. The whispers erupted in a frenzy. Pain. Suffering. You will feel our pain. The air crackled with an unseen energy as the well seemed to pulse with a malevolent light. Terror propelled me forward. I grabbed Ben's arm and yanked him away from the well. We stumbled back, watching in horror as Mark and Emily leaned closer to the dark abyss, their faces twisted with a mix of fear and longing. We gotta leave now. I yelled to Ben, my voice hoarse. He nodded, his eyes wide with terror. Together, we turned and sprinted towards the car, the whispers echoing behind us, a chilling symphony of despair and rage. We didn't stop running until we were far enough away that the whispers faded into the vastness of the desert. Collapsing into the car, panting and trembling, we didn't talk. The water we never found was the least of our concerns now. The experience had left an invisible mark on us, a chilling reminder of the dark secrets that sometimes lurk beneath the surface of this seemingly endless land. We drove for hours, the Nevada sun sinking lower in the sky, painting the desert in hues of burnt orange and purple. The silence was broken only by the rhythmic hum of the engine, a comforting sound compared to the chilling whispers of the well. None of us dared to speak about what happened. The memory of those voices, filled with despair and anger, hung heavy in the air like the desert heat. We stopped at the first gas station we saw, a beacon of civilization in the vast emptiness. As we refueled and guzzled water that tasted like salvation, the weight of the experience lifted slightly. Days later, back in the comfort of our own homes, the desert ordeal began to feel like a bizarre dream. But the whispers lingered in the back of my mind, a constant reminder. We never spoke of the well again, but there was an unspoken pact between us, a promise to never venture into the desolate backcountry again. One evening, while scrolling through social media, I stumbled upon a news article. It was about a search party looking for a group of friends who went missing on a camping trip in the Nevada desert. The description matched us perfectly. A shiver ran down my spine. We were found, thankfully, dehydrated but unharmed, our story dismissed as a case of heat stroke and dehydration. The official explanation brought a sense of relief, but it couldn't erase the chilling truth. The well, the whispers, the unseen force, it was all real. The desert held a secret, something dark and malevolent that preyed on human desperation. We may have escaped its clutches, but a part of us remained forever tethered to that desolate place, a chilling reminder that some secrets are best left undisturbed. The Florida sun beat down mercilessly as our rickety boat bobbed on the turquoise water. Sweat beaded on my forehead, a stark contrast to the cool spray that hit us every time the boat cut through a wave. This wasn't your typical weekend trip to the Keys. We were on a mission, a secret mission fueled by whispers of buried pirate treasure on a remote, uncharted island. Our fearless leader, or at least the guy who knew how to navigate with a dusty map and a rusty compass, was Max. He'd spent years researching local legends, convinced a Spanish galleon laden with gold met its watery demise somewhere around these uncharted waters. The rest of us, Sarah, the marine biologist with a thirst for adventure, Mike, the tech whiz with an underwater drone, and me, Liam, the designated muscle, were just along for the, hopefully, thrilling ride. After hours of searching, the telltale outline of a small island emerged from the shimmering haze. Excitement crackled in the air as Max steered the boat closer. The island was a picture of untouched beauty, white sand beaches, lush greenery, and a single, weathered palm tree swaying in the breeze. But it held an unsettling air, a silence broken only by the rhythmic crash of waves against the shore. Following Max's lead, we waded through the shallows, our eyes scanning the water. Then, Sarah spotted it, a dark shape barely visible beneath the surface, a hint of a submerged structure. Max's face broke into a wide grin. "The church," he declared, pointing at the faint outline. Legend spoke of a church built by shipwrecked Spanish sailors, a possible landmark near the hidden treasure. We donned our diving gear, a mix of excitement and apprehension bubbling in my stomach. The moment I plunged into the cool water, the vibrant world above vanished, replaced by an eerie quiet and a strange, greenish tint. Mike steered the drone ahead of us, its camera revealing the imposing shape of a submerged church. Sunlight filtered through the murky water, casting long, distorted shadows that danced on the moss-covered stone walls. Swimming through the massive oak doors, we entered the church. Empty pews lined the floor, their once vibrant colors muted by time and salt water. An unsettling feeling of dread pressed down on me, the silence broken only by the sound of our own breathing and the faint hiss of our air tanks. As we ventured deeper, Sarah pointed to cryptic messages carved into the walls, warnings in Spanish, weathered but still legible. They spoke of a vengeful spirit guarding a lost treasure, a curse placed upon anyone who dared disturb its resting place. Suddenly, the water around us turned a murky red. Panic surged through me as I felt the ground beneath my feet shift. A chilling moan echoed through the church, a sound that seemed to vibrate through my bones. Then, in the distance, a shadowy figure emerged from the depths. It was tall and gaunt, its skeletal frame barely visible through the blood-red water. Its eyes, however, glowed with an unholy light that pierced through the darkness, locking onto us. We were trapped. The exit seemed to have vanished, replaced by a wall of fallen debris. Fear turned my limbs to lead. But Sarah, ever the quick thinker, grabbed her emergency flare gun and pointed it at the figure. The sudden burst of light seemed to momentarily startle it. Without hesitation, we used that window of opportunity to swim towards the collapsed wall, frantically pushing aside stones and debris. After what felt like an eternity, we managed to create a narrow opening. Lunging through it, we burst back into the open water, the ghostly figure close behind. We surfaced for air, gasping for breath, as Mike gunned the boat's engine. As we sped away, we watched in horror as the submerged church sank back into the depths, taking its secrets and the vengeful spirit with it. Back on the mainland, safe and sound but shaken to the core, we stared at the map, the location of the island marked with a large red X. The lost treasure could wait. Some things, we realized, are best left undisturbed. The relentless July sun beat down on our rusty minivan as we rumbled down the deserted Nevada highway. My wife, Sarah, and our two kids, 10-year-old Emily and 7-year-old Ben, were all glued to the windows, boredom evident in their faces. We were on a classic American road trip, aiming to explore the lesser-known corners of the country. This detour, however, seemed like a mistake. The dusty, unmarked road we'd taken on a whim seemed to stretch on forever, the only company the occasional scrub brush and the mournful tweets of unseen desert birds. Just when I started questioning my sanity for taking this route, a flicker on the horizon caught my eye. A town. An unexpected oasis in this desolate landscape, the town looked like a scene from a Western movie. Quaint wooden houses lined a dusty main street, their paint faded but charming. Smoke curled from chimneys, and a faded American flag flapped lazily in the breeze. A collective gasp escaped the van. This was a welcome change of scenery. As we pulled into the deserted main street, a strange silence settled over us. Not the peaceful quiet of a sleepy town, but an unnatural absence of sound. No children playing, no dogs barking, not even the hum of a distant radio. Sarah exchanged a nervous glance with me. We stepped out of the van, the heat hitting us like a wall. Peering through the windows of the houses, we saw glimpses of furniture, dusty photographs on walls, signs of life, but no people. It was like a ghost town, but with the lights still on. An unsettling feeling gnawed at me. I knocked on the door of a house with a porch swaying gently in the breeze. A beat of silence, then a face appeared at the window. An old woman, her face creased with wrinkles, stared at us with vacant eyes. She didn't blink, didn't acknowledge our presence. We decided to find a gas station and maybe ask for directions. But as we started the van, I noticed the road leading out of town was gone, replaced by the same endless stretch of desert that had surrounded us before. Panic clawed at my throat. "Sarah, where'd the road go?" I stammered, my voice tight. She stared at the empty space ahead, her face pale. "Don't worry, honey," she said, trying to sound calm. "We must have missed it somehow." But her voice lacked conviction. We spent hours driving, desperately searching for a way out. The road stretched on endlessly in all directions, the town nowhere to be seen. Our phone signal was non-existent, our water supplies dwindling with each passing hour. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the desert, a profound sense of isolation settled over us. Emily started crying, the terror in her eyes a mirror to my own. Ben, usually full of energy, sat huddled next to Sarah, his silence more unsettling than his cries. We were lost, trapped in this desolate landscape with no way out. Nightfall brought a new kind of terror, the darkness seemed to pulsate with unseen eyes. Coyotes howled in the distance, their mournful cries echoing through the silence. Sleep was a fleeting visitor, punctuated by nightmares of the empty-eyed woman staring out the window. As the days turned into a blur, we rationed our remaining food and water. Hope dwindled with each sunrise, replaced by a creeping despair. The once charming vision of the deserted town now haunted us, a chilling reminder of the strange phenomenon that had trapped us. It was on the verge of complete breakdown that a miracle occurred. A faint outline on the horizon, another twist in the endless road. As we approached, hope bloomed in our hearts. A gas station, a beacon of civilization in this seemingly endless nightmare. We pulled in, desperate for help. A man in a greasy overalls looked at us with a hint of surprise. "Lost, are you?" he asked, a gruff kindness in his voice. We could only nod, tears welling up in our eyes. He refueled our van, helped us stock up on supplies, and pointed us in the right direction. We didn't mention the town, the experience too bizarre to articulate. As we drove away, casting one last glance at the gas station, it seemed to shrink into the distance, the outline blurring until it vanished completely. The town and its empty-eyed inhabitants remained a chilling memory, a reminder of the vast unknowns and unsettling phenomena that can lurk in the most unexpected corners of the world. We never spoke of it again, the experience bonding is in a silent pact to stick to the well-trodden paths from now on.